It's a bit of bad luck there, Martino. Put a disclaimer in, I'm not a mechanic. Basically, either the gearbox is leaking through the seal, or someone's overfilled the drive shaft. It's pretty much one of those two things. That and the boot's leaking. Changing the boot means you've got to take the shaft off, or a big job, because you've got to remove the whole shaft, and you don't want to do that on the side of the road. Make sure that the rings and the straps, you can maybe even take them off, clean them, poke around with a matchstick, make sure all of the boot seal is nice and tight, and that the straps that go round the boot seal are clamping around the flat part on the front and the back. Just make sure they're good. If the boot itself is leaking, you might be able to actually roll it over 180 and put the holes up the top, but that's a bloody push. Some people have even suggested gaffer tape. Might work at a stretch, but it's pretty messy and it will leak. I guess the first thing is establishing whether there's too much oil in it. And obviously your problem is that someone's mullered the top bung. This is a really common problem. I've had to replace all of them on mine over the years. You have to do helicoils. Helicoils are basically a sleeve insert. It's a brand name, there's a few brands out there, but Helicoils invented the concept, so they're the best ones to go for. There's lots of different types, just steel ones are fine. The problem is that the actual box that it screws into is in light alloy, which is really soft, and the bung is made of cast iron metal, and so it doesn't take much of a push, and the metal of the bung has just screwed up the magnesium alloy of the shaft housing. So it happens a lot. You've basically got to drill that hole out bigger, put in the sleeve of the helicoil, and then you can put the same bung back in. This guy would describe it better than this video, which is a helicoil advertising manual.
For many thread repairs, helicoils are worth their weight in gold. These little inserts let you drill out the bad threads, screw these in, and come up with the same threads that are in there before we stripped them out. And they make these inserts in all of the metric and standard inch thread designs and sizes. These single thread kits come with several inserts, an installation tool, and the tap you need for screwing this insert in. Everything in these helicoil kits is very well made, from the tabs to the insertion tool, but these little coils is where the real genius is with this system. The coils are made from tightly wound diamond-shaped wire. This tang on the end is engaged by the insertion tool and actually turns the insert in. And you can see the little notch next to the tang in the wire, and that's for snapping this tang off after it's installed. We'll see more on that a little later in this video. They even ground the end of the insertion tool square so you can put it in a tap handle. You have to use a specific size drill with each of the thread sizes in these kits, and that's listed on the package, and it's also printed right on the tap. For our 3/8/16 threads, we need to use a 25/64 drill bit, and I have that here. We're actually taking out very little material, and I know some guys can do this with a hand drill, but that isn't me. I have no problem recognizing that my drill press is way more accurate than I am. After clearing the hole to make sure there's no debris in that, I can use the included tap to start cutting the threads. These taps may be cutting special threads for these inserts, but you use them like anything else. Go a half to a 3/4 of a turn forward, and then back it up a half a turn or so to break the chips, and keep repeating that cycle. And as we did with the bolt, once we cut all the threads, I go ahead and spin this tap down and up a couple of times just to make sure we clean everything up real well. When we screw the insert onto the insertion tool, this cut engages the tang in the bottom of the insert. As the insertion tool pushes on that tang, it actually reduces the diameter of the coil a little bit and makes it go in very easily. We start feeding the insert into the threads in a hole just like you would a bolt. And we just carefully turn the insert until it sinks down into the hole. We want to turn the insert in until its top edge is below the top of the hole, just a little bit. When we back the insertion tool out, that releases the pressure on the insert and expands a little bit and fits into the threads very tightly. And now we have brand new 3/8/16 threads. Remember that little notch next to the tang? Well, that's how we get rid of the tang if we have a through bolt or we need to stack the inserts for a long threaded hole. I just set a good size hex key down a hole, set it on the tang, wrap it with the hammer, and it's gone. After knocking off that tang, we can thread one bolt through one insert or stack inserts in a deep hole to really grab a long bolt. Knowing how to safely repair threads can save you a lot of money and a lot of time and a lot of frustration.
The trouble with that, because it's on top, is you're going to drop bits and pieces into the shaft. So you're probably going to have to remove both of them and either flush it out or actually remove the whole housing would be the safest way. But you might be able to just flush the thing out. Either way, if you get the oil out of the bottom, measure it, and then you'll know if like 200 mils comes out. There's only supposed to be 150 mils in there, and 50 mils is probably enough according to some things I've read online. So 100 mils. If 150 mils comes out right there on the spot, you know that the last person who filled it overfilled it. And that would be such a blessing, because you know that it's not coming from anywhere else, it's someone simply overfilled it. But your biggest problem is these helicoils, and you're going to have to figure that out. Like I say, I've had to do all of mine in the past, so once they're done, you never have to do it again, and you just take a lot more care with how tight you do them up. And always replace the crush washers. They're these little aluminium washers. There's copper ones. Every garage workshop has the copper ones. I've got away with copper ones for a while, but every single time you undo one and do it in, always put a fresh one in, because otherwise you've got to tighten it up too much, crack. You've just molded your aluminium casing. So helicoils, they're going to need a mechanic. You can buy the kits, mechanics workshops, machine workshops, they've got everything you need. It doesn't have to be a specialist bike shop. Any engineering shop, any engineer worth their salt can replace one of these things. It's just a matter of getting it off. If you want to save money, you can possibly take the arm off, remove it all, and then take it to the machine workshop, get them to helicoil all of them. If you're going to take it off, might as well get them to do them all at once, is one way of looking at it. Put it back on. When you put the shaft back on, there's 4 flange bolts, and you'll need to replace them. They're really important. You can get by with Loctite ones, or the locking nuts, but the original BMW ones take a special tool, and they're a one-trick pony. You can only use them once, and then when you take them off, they're stuffed because they're stretched. You got to buy new ones and put them on with the special tool. But I have heard that people have used just standard locking nuts on those. And there you go, take everything I've said with a pinch of salt, because I'm not a mechanic. I just happen to have owned one of these before, and I know what you're going through. I've done it all before myself, and this is a particularly tough one to do on the side of the road. Yeah, so sorry I haven't got any good news for you, Martina. It's all going to be difficult. You could possibly remove the bolts. If the bolts is a problem to get out, you can put in a sharp knife or a pocket knife, kind of like in the top of the bolt, and just tap it a little bit as someone tries to gently ease it off. And you've just got to get that grip to get it to come out. It's going to be tough, right? But sometimes you can get away with that. Otherwise, look, you might have to just bite the bullet, take the whole rear wheel off, take off those 4 bolts that hold the shaft in, take the bevel box so you've got it in your hand and you can actually, access stuff easily. And get the help of an engineer. The Spanish love their motorcycles. Next time you see a biker on the side of the road in Spain on a sunny day, tap them on the shoulder and go, "Excuse me mate, can you give us a hand?" And I'm sure they'll be helpful, because they're wonderful like that. Keep in mind that you don't need a specialist BMW shop necessarily to do this, because it's an engineering project. So you need good engineers. Basically, good luck. And you'll sort it out. Because you got to, don't you?